Flower friends, welcome back to another episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and I'm so glad you're here, friends. If this is your first time, welcome. We are the place to go if you need help and support at any level for growing cut flowers. You know, I've been a commercial cut flower farmer for over 25 years, and I'm now on a mission. And that mission is to help other people to grow cut flowers, whether it is for profit or for pleasure. And we do that in so many ways. This podcast is just one little piece of our big pie that we have for you guys. Over at thegardenersworkshop.com, which is our platform, you will find so much to support you, from our online garden shop that only stocks the same tools, seeds, and supplies and my books, everything that I use here on my farm and how I do it, to an online course library. We have our sister podcast, Seed Talk. You can connect with our live gardening show that happens several times a week. Friends, we just have so much for you over there, and so many videos and resources and blogs. You know, it will help you wherever you are, whatever stage, because everything we do, friends, we do it for you guys. And so we'd love to have you to subscribe to our farm news that will help you stay in the loop on things that are happening, timely articles, timely podcasts, special offers. And I will mention here, friends, 2026 is loaded with so much stuff that's going to be coming out this year. And I promise you, you do not want to miss it. So sign up for our farm news, and that will keep you in the loop. So this episode, Follow Through to the Joy of Gardening, is really about my personal journey that I'm going through right now. It's like some stuff that I've been thinking about. And I thought, you know what? I bet other people are thinking or struggling or considering this too. So I thought, let's just have a gab about this. You know, so what I started off with is, what got me to start gardening? What got you to garden? That's where I would think, this is the question mark that I've been carrying around lately. And, like, how did it all start? How did I get here? What was I thinking when I dove in head first? And here I am, almost 30 years later. Have I arrived? Or did I miss my exit, y'all, because I was so distracted by the overwhelm and all the mess that I've started but just never completed, right? I mean, it's like, am I hoarding in my mind my garden? Is there so much stuff in the way that I can't see it anymore? That's kind of where I'm coming from. Why is it so darn easy to overindulge in the gardening? And it just ties us up into knots and leads us to never getting to what that vision was all about. Back in the beginning is what I've been thinking about, and as someone that is exposed 24/7 to the bait of social media and the internet as part of my job, I literally have to make a day-by-day choice, sometimes hour by hour, to choose my stuff, my garden, not the illusions that are dangling on some darn device. I think devices is kind of like chocolate. It's like, if you can control and eat one piece a day or something, more power to you. But some people have to give up something to get back to that point. And I'm just saying that might be what you need. I do. I go cold turkey. And that just brings me back to seeing what I'm missing in life. So just a thought. So if you suffer from starting more than you can finish, like me, I'm predisposed to that. We have to stop wasting so much labor and money and sweat by not following through on those things that we started in the garden, because this leads us to never arriving at that joy of gardening, y'all, because we just never follow through. All the different stuff that we just start over and over. We're constantly starting because, the bottom line is starting's the easy part. Sticking with it and following through is the hard part. So I've been thinking about this because, the flower farm is coming into that really busy season right now, and so much needs to be done around here. And it takes so many hands to bring all of the pieces together, that resisting the tendency to plant too much, make too many beds, or buy so many plants that we bring home and they sit in the corner and never get planted. I'm talking about the stuff that you go not intending to buy plants, but you buy plants. You bring them home and you set them over there and think, I'm not sure where I'm going to put them. So I'll put them here and keep them watered. And then lo and behold, 3 months later, they're still sitting there, right? There are just so many roadblocks blocking us from the joy of it all. And we put them in. They are only installed by us, y'all. Installed by us. All this stuff that we pile on our shoulders, that never ending to-do list that we'll never really have time to do or complete. And all of this is by our own choice. And that's what I had to really needed a full dose of realizing, y'all, that all of this mess is by our choice. And I so remember my daddy used to share with me when I'd be going on about all the stuff I had to do or how much I was suffering, right, from all the good stuff that was happening to me. He would say, and whose idea was all this? Reality check, y'all. That's what we have to remember, right? And I'm sharing all this because we started a couple of years ago making some choices here on the farm, and we are now really beginning to reap the benefits of sticking with the plan and not overcommitting ourselves. And we have the best garden that we've had in a long time, the Cool Flower Garden. So it's mid-March, and my last frost date's mid-April, just for reference. And so we still aren't planting warm season stuff. We're in seed starting indoors, but our garden outside is just like amazing. And we came through the coldest winter we've had in probably 5 to 7 years. And so it's not because we had a mild winter. I'm in fact learning that cold winter is exactly what Cool Flowers actually needs and wants. We are just reaping. We're just at the forefront of the reaping of the benefits, right? And I have cut like a handful of those early bird flowers, calendulas, my Iceland poppies are getting ready to pop. But our choices are beginning to shine in the garden. The choices of not just piling it so high we could never get to the bottom. And the main step that we took that we're reaping at this given moment is that we've downsized the size of the garden. And, my tendency all these years has been, in my effort to meet the crazy demand that I created for my cut flowers in our business, is I always overgrew. And then my goal was to sell it all, right? Now, the business is very different and the demand is very different. So we do not need 10 to 15,000 stems of flowers a week by a long shot. We need so much less than that for our education and content creation business that we have now become, and equipping people with tools, seeds, and supplies they need to do it all with, right? We've replaced growing masses with getting to indulge in the different fun gardening stuff to help people on a much more intimate and intricate level, by writing books and creating courses and showing how to do stuff on all of our products, on our online store. You know what I mean? It's like, these are the things it just takes so much time. And that's what we have submerged ourselves in. And a beneficial big follow through was only planting the best transplants, and I think y'all have probably heard me say, we've always started like 20 to 50% more seeds than plants we actually needed to plant in our garden. And we did that in our effort to only plant the best. When we were in high production, we always had failures, germination, flops for whatever reason. And then we would then use those ones that we hadn't really intended on planting, the puny ones of the great trays, and we'd plant them. And now that we're downsized and we don't need to do that, we are just seeing how great, particularly when you have a small space garden, how great your garden can be when you really cherry pick what you plant. We are coming out of this winter with beds that are absolutely fabulous. And I know that's a big part of the reason. In addition to that cold winter, we just have the most filled garden space that we've ever had. Planted great transplants. We planted them on time, which allowed them to get established before winter came. Then winter came, and then it stayed, and so forth and so on, right? When we do our part, it just changes the outcome. So I really want to just give you a peek. I've given you a peek at some of the results, but I wanted to give you some timely foundation steps that we're tackling on time. You know, I'm gasping just saying that. It's like we just haven't been able to do that for a decade and a half because we have been so big and so busy, right? That we are now doing things that we used to never got to do them on time. We are now doing them on time. And it's making living in and around this garden so incredibly joyful. It just restores your soul, y'all. And it fires you up to do the things that you want to do. So let's look at some of these steps that we are now reaping the benefit of doing and focusing on. Number one, which has always been my number one focus, but I will confess that it's been pushed aside for the last decade. We still do it, but it's not my front seat rider. And that is keeping our soil fed. And I'm not talking about fertilizer or just fertilizer. I'm talking about that the health of our soil is our number one consideration, not what flowers I'm growing, where they're going to go, how many, who am I selling them to? I'm talking about that this is the front row seat. It's the first thing I think of in all areas. And that's what got me to where I am today, because that was our focus. And that is, continually adding organic matter, that would be compost and leaf mold, to our soil, using only organic-based type fertilizers. All of this builds the life of our soil, which is billions of microbes and bacteria, and they need food. Think of your soil as a 15-year-old teenage boy. It has got it's a bottomless pit that's got to be fed. And when you're planting basketball team flowers, meaning you're pumping them, they need a lot of food. And that's when your soil is healthy and well fed, it eliminates most of the questions that I get every day about puny plants, right? So putting that first and attending to it in a timely manner eliminates the in-season struggles that most people are dealing with. And I can remember one of the books of Elliot Coleman's that I read in the beginning, and he quoted Thomas Jefferson, who was quite a gardener, and he quoted him where Thomas Jefferson said that his daughter had written to him, and she was saying that her garden was struggling. And he wrote back and said that I feel sure, I'm paraphrasing y'all, I feel sure that the struggle of your puny garden is because your soil is not healthy. And it's like, this is no news flash, y'all. It's been going on forever, since the beginning of time. So move that to the front seat and seat belt it in and leave it in the front seat. And so the next thing that I feel like we have really attended to and focused to on so much that it has really kept us on point and allowed me to enjoy my garden so much more is preventing weeds. And we do that by mulching. And there's all different kinds of mulch. I used to use organic mulches like straw, shredded bark, and shredded leaves back before I started scaling my farm. And then when I began using biodegradable mulch film, about 14 years ago, that allowed me to level up my farm and still prevent weeds from growing by blocking the light from getting to my soil surface. That was just much less labor intensive, and it did a more thorough job. What I learned, I know that those organic mulches also contributed greatly to the health of my soil, but to actually get the weed suppression that I now experience with organic mulches, you have to put it fairly deep to block the sunlight from getting to the surface of the soil, which is what allows the weed seeds to germinate. When that organic mulch is that thick, it very easily smothers young transplants by it shifting, and that happens with wind and weather. And we experience that a lot. That doesn't really happen with biodegradable film. So every mulch, so mulch is anything that covers the surface of a soil. Whatever your choice is, you just have to do it. And we have done it with biodegradable film for the past 14 years. And that's what has allowed us to achieve such weed suppression. And it's huge. How many people a day ask me, what do you do about the weeds? Well, when you only have a very small percentage of any weeds in your garden because you're preventing them, it's just not even on your radar anymore. It allows you to focus on the job at hand, which is growing flowers in season. So preventing weeds is a huge one that you have to attend to at the proper stage. And then the next one is doing flower or installing, I should say, flower support netting. If you're growing cut flowers to sell or for a real purpose, it's hard to say that you'll have cut flowers if you don't use flower support netting. And that is because torrential rain, heavy downpours, along with wind, will just lay your flowers out and then you won't have any. So the secret to quick and easy installation is to install it on time. And I am happy to report that along with our great garden that's coming out of winter, it has been netted on time for the first time in years. You can look back at images in books, on courses, and I'm often saying, and this bed is not netted because it got away from us. And that means it started growing up before we got the netting on. We just didn't pay attention close enough. And this year, all of my cool flower garden is the transplant garden where those early blooming snaps are all netted. And it's like it's a 10-minute job when you have the supplies on hand and you do it on time, and then you never have to think about it again. Honest engine, y'all. It's like you want to just say, where have I been all these years? Why have I allowed myself to be so distracted by overdoing so much mess that I didn't do the jobs that were necessary on time to really enjoy the garden? This is the stuff that lets you walk your garden in the evening and just smile instead of walking around going, oh my gosh, look at that. That needs to be netted. Oh, look at all those weeds. Oh my gosh, look at that. You know what I mean? Honestly, what is wrong with us? Although I will say, if you're a flower farmer, you're a hustler. And hustlers, we're always looking for opportunities. We just have to learn to control that mechanism and channel it, y'all. All right. So the other thing that has really plummeted me into enjoying my garden more the last couple years is protecting my plantings better. And that's two things. One is, if you've been riding along with me for very long, I'm in the middle of the city, but I live 2,000 yards away from the Warwick River, which means we have a plenty of deer, even though I'm totally surrounded by houses. There's enough woods and vegetation to really sustain deer here. And for, the first 25 years, the deer were here, but they were always in our neighbor's yard. Our neighbors made it so easy for the deer to eat there that they kind of just stayed out of my yard. It only took a little effort on my part, which was my dog that would chase them and scare them to death. But about 5 years ago, they really started hitting us. And I'm sure it is related to that neighborhood that was built on the pastures that surrounded me, which is a whole nother story. And we got deer overnight. And so we have had to start doing something about deer. And I definitely am a believer that if you can't deer fence, that applying deer spray more often than what is recommended on the label. I only use deer sprays that say every 30 days, not this every 7 day stuff. The every 30 day means it has a good sticker. That's what holds the spray to the plant, the mechanism in the spray that does that. So we know that it stays longer, even during normal rain, not torrential rain. But we have started applying deer spray every 2 weeks, even though it says 30 days. And we use about 2 or 3 different brand names. And I use Tree Guard, I Must Garden, and Liquid Fence. And it's because they each have like different smells and different ingredients, and that keeps the deer guessing. And we'll use one month and one another. Anyway, that's the method of our madness. And Bobo now has made that part of her work. We never have been able to do that before. It's like because we have I do have an electric portable solar deer fence that we put around the main garden, but I have a lot of other areas that have plantings that don't have deer fence, and they have to be sprayed to protect them. And we've never been able to do that before effectively. And friends, I'm here to say, while my golden retriever licks the deer spray and smells like it when he breathes on you, it keeps deers away, but not goldens. So that's just a side note there. So that's been huge. We've never had the time to do that before. And also in protecting your plants, I know that I did the row cover dance so much more effectively. Back in the day when we were high production, I had so much help that we did a great job. But as the farm started to downsize and there was less, it was more me here alone most of the time. And there was just more beds than I could physically take care of, meaning the constant up and down throughout winter of covers. It's a lot of work moving those weights when you have, let's just say, 1,500-foot beds for one person versus 3 100-foot beds. It gives you options, y'all. And I can almost forecast, I think we're going to get more harvest from the smaller garden than we did from the bigger garden, but that's a whole nother conversation. So being able to not constantly put on more work than I can actually get to makes me a better gardener and a better farmer. That leads to better conditions, that leads me to enjoy my gardens more. I mean, most of us are not full-time. This is the livelihood for our family. I have friends that are that way. I think of Sunny Meadows, Pamela and Frank Arnowski, those people that are just full-fledged. This is what puts the bread on their table. But that's not most of us. Most of us, we are padding our family income. We are wanted a job that we love and enjoy, that we can. I have so improved our home place and beautified it by what I've done. I think that's where most of us are coming from, and embracing that we have choices that we have to face to not fall into this big old mud puddle and then waller, that we have choices to help control ourselves so that we really do a good job of this and keep it so that we can really arrive. Take the right exit, y'all. Don't miss the turn because you're so busy looking at all the weeds you have to deal with or all the things you haven't gotten to, right? Don't miss your exit, because is the joy of gardening enough? That's what I'm facing today. It's like, for me to be able to create content and be in this space and really embrace and love my garden is the good life, y'all. As far as work and all that goes, right? It just enhances what I have. And I believe it is a choice to be here. That's what it all comes down to. And I think I never realized so clearly as I realize now that it's all my choices. I can make it what you can reinvent yourself and what you're doing at any point in the game. Y'all, I have reinvented myself so many times and lost money and made money doing it. So don't let anything hold you back, because the joy of gardening, I think, is what got us all here. But don't miss it. Don't miss the boat, y'all. All right, friends, I hope to see you over at thegardenersworkshop.com, engaging over there. And till we meet again, my friends, ciao.